May thy servant Camilla, who wears this crown, be filled by thine abundant grace, and with all princely virtues.
In the British constitutional monarchy, every royal title derives from the crown. The crown passes instantly on the monarch's death. The new king holds every card subject to review from the moment he signs the accession papers. That is not an opinion. It is 800 years of constitutional architecture, and it has never once been designed to protect the person who holds the titles. Here is the first thing you need to know. The phrase "by appointment to Her Majesty Queen Camilla" sits in shop windows across Britain right now, on letterheads, on correspondence cards, on the kind of official documentation that takes years to earn. The moment Charles dies, that phrase begins a 24-month countdown to disappearing. A style guide, rewritten before dawn. Here is the second. The last person to formally hold the title everyone expects Camilla to receive next, Queen Dowager, was Queen Adelaide, widowed in 1837, not in living memory, not in the modern monarchy, in Victorian England. The title has not been formally granted to anyone in 188 years. Here is the third, 200. That is the number of charitable patronages currently bearing Camilla's name. Every single one subject to the same constitutional review. One administrative process. No individual notification required. Most channels covering this story are telling you about the titles Camilla might lose. They're starting from the wrong end of the story. The titles are the surface. There is one piece of paper that makes every single one of these titles revocable simultaneously. One signature. I am going to show you exactly what it is, but first you need to see what it can reach. Subscribe before we count, because number 15 is the one that makes all the others make sense, and you will not find it anywhere else.
I think the one I enjoyed reading more than anything else. My husband, he does it really, he can do all the voice.
She is a woman who spent 2 decades being called the other woman and 3 years being called queen, and every title in between was granted by someone else's pen. On the morning of September 9th, 2022, the day after Elizabeth died, Charles's first formal accession act upgraded Camilla from Duchess of Cornwall to Queen Consort. Not a negotiation, a constitutional decision made at the moment the crown passed before the public had finished processing the news. The title arrived the same way all the others would, by sovereign discretion, in writing, without her having to ask. That is the paradox the rest of this video turns on. She did not design the architecture she inhabits. She did not draft the Sovereign Grant Act, appoint herself Colonel-in-Chief of the Royal Lancers, or write her name onto 200 charitable letterheads. Every title came from above. Everyone was performed, publicly, competently, without scandal, from the moment it landed. The performance was real. The foundation it rests on is something else entirely. The institution redistributed. The king's siblings, Anne, Edward, absorbed the structural load. Camilla stabilized. The raw engagement count went up. The active working days went down. A household adjustment during a king's illness. That is the simplest explanation, and it is probably the correct one for right now. But the mechanism that could make that adjustment permanent is already sitting in William's hands. It has been since 2011. The reduction today is institutional weather. After Charles dies, it becomes institutional architecture. The difference between those two things is one signature. The people who have actually read the Sovereign Grant Act 2011, not the headlines about it, the act itself, understand why all 15 titles exist at exactly one person's discretion. What the Sovereign Grant Act 2011 actually authorizes at the moment of accession, and what it means for every title on this list simultaneously, is what the rest of this video is about. Should Camilla automatically become Queen Dowager when Charles dies? Or is that William's decision to make?
Even as we grieve, we give thanks for this most faithful life. I pray for the guidance and help of Almighty God.
This is a story about 800 years of constitutional architecture, and what it means that one signature covers all 15 at once. Title number 1, Her Royal Highness, 3 letters. The most basic marker of senior royal standing, the one that determines who bows, who curtsies, who defers in a room. Camilla holds it. It derives from the crown. When the crown passes, it reverts for review. Title number 2, Queen Consort. The title Charles upgraded her to on the morning after Elizabeth died. Gone the moment Charles goes, because the role of Queen Consort requires a living consort on the throne. No monarch, no consort. The title dissolves by definition. Title number 3, Queen. The public name. The one on the letterheads, the one the newspapers use, the one the public reads as settled. Subject to the same review as every other. Title number 4, Queen Dowager. The title constitutional protocol says she receives next, the one that has not been formally granted to anyone in the British monarchy since 1837. Not in the reign of Victoria, not in the reign of George V, not in the reign of Elizabeth II, because every consort since Adelaide has been the biological mother of the succeeding monarch. Camilla is not. The precedent exists. The last person it applied to died 188 years ago. Title number 5, Queen Mother. The title she cannot hold. The biological requirement, mother of the reigning monarch, is the one qualification she does not meet. Every named royal commentator who has looked at this question reaches the same conclusion. The title is constitutionally blocked. 5 titles, 1 mechanism, none of them hers by right. Royal Central, one of the UK's longest-running dedicated royal commentary publications, covering constitutional succession and institutional protocol as its primary editorial focus, referenced across mainstream outlets as a source on royal procedure, published a specific finding in July 2025. The styling of former consorts after a monarch's death is not an automatic legal right. It is at the discretion of the succeeding sovereign. That sovereign will be William. Royal Central has no editorial hostility toward Camilla. This is not an anti-Camilla finding. It is a constitutional position, stated plainly by a publication with no stake in the outcome. The traditional expectation and the constitutional reality are not the same thing. The expectation is that she becomes Queen Dowager. The reality is that William decides. And the named document that makes every one of these revocable simultaneously, with no appeal mechanism, is what turns this list into something else entirely. Title number 6, Privy Councillor. The seat at the table where the machinery of state runs. Camilla sits on the Privy Council, the body that formally processes the most significant acts of constitutional government. The appointment derives from the Crown. A new king convenes a new accession council. The composition of that council is his to determine. Title number 7, Court Circular Precedents. The official record of royal duties, who appeared, in what order, at what event. Precedence on the court circular is not ceremonial vanity. It is the institutional signal of where a person sits in the hierarchy of the firm. Camilla's position on that record is granted, not fixed. The order can be rewritten. Title number 8, State Ceremonial Role. The formal presence at state occasions, state banquets, diplomatic receptions, the events the world watches to understand who the British monarchy considers important. Her place at those occasions is a function of her title. The title is subject to review. The seat follows the title. Title number 9, Royal Warrant Authority. This is the one that reaches furthest into public life. By appointment to Her Majesty Queen Camilla, on shop windows across London, on letterheads, on the kind of official recognition that takes years to earn and carries genuine commercial weight. In 2024, Charles empowered Camilla to grant warrants in her own name. The rule is explicit. When a grantor dies, the warrant becomes void. A 2-year grace period follows. After that, every business bearing her name either earns renewal from the new monarch or removes the royal arms from their window. 200 patronages. The same clock. 1 administrative process. Every letterhead, every court circular entry, every patronage name sits inside the same constitutional architecture. Every one of them at once. We will get to exactly what that means for all of them at once. And every letterhead, every court circular entry, every patronage name sits inside the same constitutional architecture. We will get to exactly what that means for all of them at once. Fact A. Camilla was never named Princess of Wales. Elizabeth blocked that title in the documented conditions for the 2005 wedding, the most senior title available to the wife of the heir to the throne, withheld by the woman who held every card. Fact B. She became Queen Consort in Charles's first formal accession act, within hours of Elizabeth's death. Fact A. The last person to formally hold the Queen Dowager title was Queen Adelaide, widowed in 1837. Fact B. The title has not been granted to anyone in the modern monarchy. Title number 10. Sovereign Grant Allocation. Picture the public version first. Camilla at a gala, name on the programme, patronage confirmed, letterhead printed. The visibility looks settled. The platform looks permanent. The institution looks like it has made a decision about her place inside it. Underneath that image is a financial mechanism. The Sovereign Grant Act 2011 consolidated the civil list and all associated grants into a single formula-based payment, covering the costs of staff, travel, and the maintenance of occupied royal palaces. Section 1(2) of the Act specifies that the royal household sets its own priorities and allocates spending in the way it considers best to achieve its objectives. That flexibility is not incidental. It is the point. The reigning monarch holds full discretion over internal allocation. No appeal mechanism, no formal challenge process named in the legislation. Camilla's office runs on that allocation. Her staff, her travel, her security detail. Every operational component of the public platform the world reads as settled. Funded through a mechanism that transfers entirely to William's pen at the moment of accession. Title number 11. Councillor of State, the constitutional standing that allows a senior royal to sign state documents, attend Privy Council meetings, and receive diplomatic credentials in the monarch's absence. Camilla holds this status now because she is the sovereign's spouse. That is the qualifying condition named in the Regency Acts. The moment Charles dies, she is no longer the sovereign's spouse. The qualifying condition disappears. Her constitutional standing to act as a councillor of state ends at the accession council. Title number 12. Charitable patronage titles. 200 of them. Every letterhead, every gala invitation, every board position that carries her name as the anchor of its public legitimacy. Remove the title, the invitations stop arriving. These are not the public-facing names. These are the foundations the public-facing names rest on. And this is the rung where the Sovereign Grant Act stops being abstract. It covers all of this, simultaneously. One document. A reduction in official engagements during a king's illness is a normal household adjustment. State that clearly. The working day figures for Camilla in 2025 reflect exactly that. A slight reduction in active days against a backdrop of the king's own recovery and the redistribution of structural load to his siblings. The simplest explanation is probably the correct one. But here is what the simplest explanation does not cover. Regardless of the cause of the reduction now, the mechanism for making it permanent is already in William's hands at the moment of succession. The reduction is circumstantial today. After Charles dies, it becomes constitutional. The Sovereign Grant Act does not require a motive. It requires a signature. The motive is irrelevant to the mechanism. Name the mechanism, not the intent behind it. Is Camilla's charitable work genuine? Or has she built 200 patronages on a title she was never truly entitled to? Title number 13. Honorary military patronages. Colonel-in-Chief of the Royal Lancers, Colonel-in-Chief of the Rifles, inherited from Prince Philip in 2020, Patron of the Royal Army Chaplains Department, held for decades by Elizabeth II, transferred to Camilla in August 2023. Crown appointments, everyone. Borrowed authority, granted above, held below, reviewed at succession. Title number 14, Royal Household Titular Role. The staff credentials, the diplomatic standing, the formal infrastructure of a working senior royal. At William's accession council, the structure of the household is his to define. The staff answer to the crown is passing. Title number 15, the Sovereign Grant Act 2011. Passed when Charles was still heir, not yet king, not yet in a position to use it. It gives the monarch full discretion over sovereign grant allocation, with no appeal mechanism. Every title on this list, the public names, the platform titles, the financial foundations, the military appointments, the household structure, simultaneously revocable. One document, one signature, all 15, at once. Fact A. The Sovereign Grant Act 2011 passed when Charles was still heir to the throne. Fact B. It gives the monarch, not the heir, the monarch, full discretion over allocation with no appeal mechanism. Will William honour every title Charles gave Camilla? Or is he already counting what he plans to take back? This is important to state clearly. What the constitutional position actually shows is not a future threat. It is the current architecture. Royal Central, over a decade covering royal constitutional procedure, no documented editorial hostility toward Camilla, published a specific finding in July 2025. The styling of former consorts is not automatic. It sits at the discretion of the succeeding sovereign, one of the first acts King William V must perform. The traditional expectation and the constitutional reality are not the same thing. Nobody in the mainstream coverage has named the specific legislation. What the documented record shows, Section 1(2) of the Sovereign Grant Act 2011, gives the royal household full discretion over internal allocation, no appeal mechanism. William's first signature covers Camilla's entire household budget, office, staff, travel, security, without a formal challenge process available to her. The palace has never confirmed Queen Dowager styling is guaranteed. William has never addressed his intentions. Camilla has never said publicly whether she understands her titles to be conditional. The silence runs in every direction. In constitutional terms, that silence is not neutrality. It is the space where discretion operates. She did not design the constitutional architecture she inhabits. The HRH, the Queen title, the 200 patronages, none of it was asked for. Elizabeth approved the 2005 wedding under documented conditions. Charles upgraded her title within hours of his accession. She performed every role with competence and without public scandal during a period of significant institutional pressure. The titles were given. She did not take them. But she accepted every upgrade, knowing the institutional cost it carried for the woman who held those titles before her. Queen Consort was Diana's promised role. Queen was the title Diana was told she would carry. Camilla accepted both without public acknowledgement of what accepting them meant in institutional terms. The silence on that point has never broken. That is the condemned moment, not malice, but the absence of any accounting. The constitutional principle that makes all 15 titles revocable is the same principle that makes the monarchy legible and stable. Without it, every title granted by every monarch would be permanent regardless of circumstance. The institution's continuity is the mechanism's purpose. It has protected the crown for 800 years and was not designed as a weapon against any individual. The same institution granted, upgraded, and publicly celebrated every title Camilla holds, and will revoke them by the same quiet administrative mechanism it used to grant them. No ceremony, No apology. A document, a signature, a style guide rewritten by Dawn. The efficiency that elevated her will process her departure. That is not cruelty, but it is not warmth either. Nobody has put this on official record, but Paul Burrell has said publicly. In his 2003 memoir, A Royal Duty, Burrell, Diana's former butler, recounts the moment the 1996 divorce stripped Diana of her HRH. William was 14, a student at Eton, when he made a vow to his mother, "Don't worry, Mummy, I will give it back to you one day when I am king." Burrell notes the conversation left Diana in tears. In a 2017 documentary, The Diana Story, Burrell reiterated his belief that restoring Diana's titles would be William's first project as king. Paul Burrell has said this publicly. William and Harry condemned A Royal Duty on publication as a betrayal of their mother's confidences. The specific quote has never been confirmed by the palace. It has never been denied either. That is the one Diana reference this video contains. Sourced, flagged, and not repeated. What the skeptic correctly notes. There is no documented statement from William confirming any intention to strip Camilla's titles. None. The constitutional mechanism is established. The precedent is established. The pattern in the engagement data is visible. But intent requires evidence, and on that specific question, the documented record is silent. The mechanism does not require intent to be real. It requires accession. The moment the crown passes, the architecture activates, regardless of what William has or has not decided. The question of intent is the human story. The question of mechanism is the constitutional one. Both are true simultaneously. I've been watching this institution for years. Here's my read. Camilla will become Queen Dowager. William will not strip her titles on day one. The institutional cost of that move, the optics of it, the signal it sends about how he intends to run the crown, make it an unlikely opening act. The palace does not move that way. It adjusts quietly, administratively, over time. A patronage not renewed, a working day total that stabilizes at a lower number, a household budget that reflects a reduced operational footprint. The reckoning will not look like a reckoning. That is the point. It will look like an adjustment, a natural recalibration following a change of reign. The style guide, rewritten before dawn. What the constitutional architecture guarantees is not a dramatic stripping of titles. It guarantees that every single decision about what Camilla keeps, what she loses, and what she is permitted to perform publicly belongs entirely to William. No court, no appeal, no formal process she can invoke. The institution that granted her everything is the same institution that will process whatever comes next. And it will do so on a timeline and in a manner of his choosing. She performed the role. The foundation it rested on was always borrowed. The lender is dying, the new lender has said nothing. That silence is the story. The list is finished. 15 titles, every one of them real, every one of them held, performed in public without scandal for 3 years of a reign that asked more of the institution than any reign in living memory. And here is what the countdown actually was. It was not a list of what Camilla is about to lose. That is the frame the other channels hand you, and it is the wrong frame entirely. Every numbered item you just moved through was a brick in the same building. And the building has one foundation, one document, one constitutional principle that has governed the British monarchy for 800 years without ever being designed with her in mind. The viewer who arrived counting titles was watching Camilla. The one who understands what just happened was watching William. Because none of those 15 titles were ever really hers to lose. The pen that wrote them belonged to Charles. The pen that reviews them belongs to someone else. It always did. The constitutional architecture was never built around the person who holds the titles. It was built around the person who holds the pen. And the person who holds the pen next has never once said publicly what he intends to do with it. That silence is not an accident. It is the space where the real story lives. There is a human truth sitting underneath all of this constitutional architecture. It is not comfortable. It does not resolve cleanly. Every position of power granted by someone else exists at that person's discretion, not yours. The institution outlives the individual. It always has. You heard that about Camilla just now. A woman who spent 2 decades being called the wrong thing, then 3 years being called queen, and who holds every title in between at the pleasure of a man who has not yet become king. Her position is not precarious because of who she is. It is precarious because of how the institution works. It has always worked this way for everyone inside it. The monarch who granted her the first title is dying. The monarch who will review every title has said nothing. The mechanism that makes the review possible has been in place since 2011, and the precedent for what happens next was set in 1837, by a woman most people have never heard of, in a reign most people cannot name. Queen Adelaide held the title, performed the role, maintained the visibility, and when the reign ended, the institution processed her departure with the same quiet efficiency it used to grant her arrival. No ceremony, no announcement, a style guide, rewritten. The institution does not hold grudges. It does not extend loyalty. It runs on continuity, and continuity means the mechanism that elevated you is the same mechanism that will one day process your exit. That is not cruelty, but it is not warmth either. What this video has not answered, and will not answer today, is the specific question underneath the constitutional principle. The Sovereign Grant Act 2011 gives William full discretion over the internal allocation of royal funding at the moment of accession. No appeal mechanism, one signature. But what the Act does not specify, what no published analysis has yet named precisely, is whether any formal process exists for a Queen Dowager to contest that allocation. Whether the constitutional architecture that makes every title revocable also contains, somewhere inside it, a mechanism Camilla could use to push back. That question is the subject of the next video. The constitutional detail is more specific than anything currently published. The operative clauses of the Act, read against the Regency Acts and the Queen Adelaide precedent, point toward an answer that changes the shape of the story, not just for Camilla, but for every consort who comes after her. That is where this goes next. Should William strip Camilla of her titles the moment he becomes king? Or does she deserve to keep what Charles gave her?